At that time, I could smell the odor of intoxicants coming from her, bloodshot, watery eyes, and then later on, inability to keep balance.
We are in Michigan for the birthday party murder trial for Marshella Chidester today. Welcome to our first hour of Court TV Live. I'm Julie Grant. This woman's accused of driving her car into a boat club, killing 2 children who were at a birthday party, and wounding 15 other people. Testimony is resuming this morning with a 14-year-old taking the stand. Before we go into the courtroom together, Court TV's Michael Ayala gives us the background.
Chaos everywhere, and all you could hear was babies crying, everyone screaming. There's plenty of people injured.
On April 20th, 2024, Marshella Chidester's car plowed into the Swan Boat Club in Monroe Township, Michigan, south of Detroit. A child's birthday party was happening inside.
My pelvis was broken in 6 places. I had internal bleeding. My nose was crushed.
2 children were killed, 8-year-old Alana and 4-year-old Zane Phillips. Their surviving brother badly injured.
He had broken ribs. He had several broken bones through his body, on his legs. He had a deep cut in the back of his head. It had to be stapled.
What happened?
I passed out.
Okay. Have you been feeling ill or anything like that?
Yes.
What kind of medical conditions do you have?
Seizures.
Seizures? Okay. Have you been drinking at all today?
A little bit, yes.
Okay.
66-year-old Marshella Chidester was behind the wheel.
On a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being like you're stone cold sober, you can drive perfectly, 10 being you're passed out drunk, where do you think you're at right now?
7.
An officer testified at the preliminary hearing that Chidester had a blood alcohol level of 0.18 and had an anti-seizure medication, gabapentin, in her system right after the crash.
I would never, ever do anything intentional. Never. I mean, that's just not me. And especially to a boat club that I love so much, and I have family and friends there.
Chidester is charged with 2 counts of second-degree murder, 2 counts of operating while intoxicated causing death, and 4 counts of operating while intoxicated causing serious injury. She's facing a possible life sentence if convicted.
I think I had a seizure. I think that the same thing that my husband said that I did when I have a seizure is just go straight. And I think when I got in the car, that's what happened. I just had the seizure and probably put my foot on the accelerator and crashed into the building.
Michael Ayala reporting there for us. The mother of those 2 children who were killed in the crash took the stand on Tuesday. Let's go in.
Ms. Dodds, you're the mother of Zane, Alana, and Jaden Phillips.
Yes. Yes.
Where were you headed on April 20th of last year?
I was headed to a birthday party.
Where was the birthday party being held?
At the Swan Boat Club.
Have you been to the Swan Boat Club before?
Just the night before to help decorate.
Okay. What garnered you an invitation? Why were you invited?
I'm the little boy's godmother.
And that was because of your relationship with Kristen Sigler at the time?
Yes.
Do you know what time you arrived at the birthday party?
It was approximately at 2:08 p.m.
Okay. And did you come alone, or who attended with you?
No, I had my mother, my 3 children, Jaden, Alana, Zane, and my nephew, Edward Smothers.
Okay. Once you got to the party, what did you do?
When we got there, we just explored what was all set up. There's multiple tables and games, a bounce house in the backyard, and the kids just roamed around and had fun.
At some point, did you tell the kids it was time to eat?
Yes.
And you didn't arrive till 2:05, so do you know roughly what time it was that you said it was time for lunch?
It was close by 2:50 p.m. because it was right after Happy Birthday was sang.
Okay. What is the last thing you can remember from the birthday party?
After they sang Happy Birthday, my kids got their food, they were eating, and eventually when they were done, within a few minutes, they ate pretty fast. We were going to go outside back in the backyard to go on the jump houses, but I placed a cake pop in front of Zane and Alana so that way they would be able to get one before they all ran out. And that was the last thing I remember.
So you don't remember the crash at all?
No.
After the crash, what's the first thing you remember?
Waking up in the hospital.
Okay. Do you have any recollection of the boat club after the crash at all?
No, just I remember trying to open my eyes and it was black, like I was asleep or something, and I heard like long distance voices. And it was just a few things that I heard, and then that was it. And then I woke up in the hospital.
You don't remember an ambulance ride or anything like that?
No.
The first time you woke up in the hospital, what was your condition?
I was choking on the tube that was in my throat.
You had a intubation, a breathing tube down your
A
throat?
ventilator.
What?
And then I was asleep, and then I woke up again.
When you woke up and you were able to assess yourself, what did you realize had happened to you?
Well, when I opened my eyes, I seen I was in a hospital room. And at that point, I didn't have the ventilator down my throat and my wrists were free. They weren't strapped down. And I heard my sister next to me crying. And I asked her, why am I here? And she said there's been an accident. And it occurred to my brain that how I was in a building the last time I remember at a birthday party. And then I freaked out because it hit me, where's my kids at? And then that's when she told me that Jaden was, life flew to a hospital and Zane and Alana were no longer there.
And you're in the hospital?
Yes.
Do you know what position you were in at that time physically?
When she told me, I started to freak out. I wanted to jump up, but I couldn't. I was hooked up to so many wires and machines, and at that time I didn't feel no physical pain because of all the medication they were pumping through me.
Did they put you back to sleep again? Do you know?
Yeah.
At that time?
Yeah, it's like I tried to scream and then everything was black again.
Oh my gosh, this poor mother. Can you imagine the pain of burying one child? She buried two children after this horrific event, and her third child was badly injured. The whole family traumatized. Alana and Zane, her children who were killed, and then having to explain this to her child that survived. I mean, the strength this woman has is remarkable. Let's talk about this case in the prosecution of defendant Marshella Chidester. I'm going to bring in someone who's practiced on both sides of the courtroom. He's a practicing criminal defense attorney in the private sector now in Florida, formerly served as a prosecutor. Attorney Matt Timpanek with us. Matt, good morning. We've missed you. You've been busy. You've had a lot of cases going on. We're so glad to have you back here. So tell me, let's start with what it's like when you get handed a case like this, when you're a prosecutor. So let's talk about that, then we'll look at this from the defense side. All these victims, all these injuries, all these witnesses. What is it like sorting through all of this to tell the story?
So with this being a mass casualty incident, you know that you're going to probably be dealing with close to 100, 150 people between all the victims, witnesses, law enforcement, experts, and you need to be able to navigate how to actually properly prosecute the case, but also allow the victims to understand that it's like, this is part of the process. You got to allow them to grieve, but let them know that it's like, we're seeking justice for this. It's going to take a long time. You're going to hear things you don't like. The defendant has the right to a trial by jury, allowed to put on the defense. So you need to understand that it's not personal. It's like, I know it's impossible not to think that they should get way worse than what they do is, but you need to understand how the process is. They're never going to understand. You don't expect them to, but you need them to be able to come through the process so that justice can be served for the victims and the deceased specifically.
Right. I'm so glad you shared that, Matt, because that's one of those behind the scenes things I think our courties love to hear and understand. You know, for someone who hasn't ever worked in criminal court or prosecuted a case like you have, there's a lot that goes into working with your victims, working with victims advocates to work with your victims, helping them understand why a case is at trial, because I think anyone could look at that video and go, why are we here? Well, what's the triable issue? And it's so important to understand how you have to temper expectations, help them know what may be happening, why it's happening, and to just stay grounded, stay hopeful and faithful. So let's look at things now from the defense side. So we've got this defendant who is saying she had an event from her history of seizures, apparently, that's gone on throughout her life, and it overtook her on this day, caused her to black out. How viable of a defense do you think this is for her, Matt?
One of the things that needs to be understood is the jury's just not going to let her walk. 2 kids died. Her BAC was 0.18. So any kind of, I was having a seizure, it's just not going to play. The real question is whether she's going to be convicted of second-degree murder. The thinking being depraved indifference would be the theory, meaning that the act of her consuming alcohol and getting behind the wheel where she could have had a seizure episode or consumed alcohol to the point that her normal faculties were impaired. That's the real triable issue, because that's punishable by life. I want to say the other charge is probably 20, 30 years. But if she were to be convicted of second-degree murder, that's life. And that's, I really think, where the whole case is. It's like, was her actions depraved indifference murder? What we have in Florida is depraved art murder, but it means the same thing. So there's not going to be a situation where they're going to buy the seizure and she's going to walk. Now, all of the DUI charges and the kind of causing bodily injury, those are all going to be convictions. It's just whether or not she's going to be convicted of murder.
Great analysis, as always. Matt Timpanek, stand by kindly, please. We're going to hit a break. When we come back, more of Mariah Dodds' testimony, the mother of Alana and Zane Phillips, the 2 babies who were killed in this horrific event.
Grieving widow or mastermind behind a murder.
Monica Cementelli is accused of plotting to kill her husband.
Famed celebrity hairstylist Fabio Cementelli.
Prosecutors say she and her lover killed Fabio to collect a big life insurance policy.
The defense may say she's a bad woman, but she wouldn't be involved in a murder. It's a whodunit Hollywood story. But will there be a twist that no one sees?
The Celebrity Stylist Murder Trial. Today, only on Court TV.
On a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being like you're stone cold sober, you can drive perfectly, 10 being you're passed out drunk, where do you think you're at right now?
7.
A 7? Okay. Do you think you're okay to drive?
I wouldn't want to drive.
You wouldn't let you drive?
No.
Okay.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Julie Grant. We're in day number 3 of the birthday party murder trial in Michigan. Back in April of 2024, police say this woman crashed into a building in South Detroit because she was drunk. And they say that the result of that drunk driving incident was the deaths of 2 beautiful children, Alana and Zane Phillips. 15 other people had bad injuries from this incident. The defendant says, though, that she was having a medical issue at the time, suffering from a seizure, says she has a history of seizures and blacked out and didn't know what happened. Now, let's go into the courtroom and hear more from the mother of those precious children who were killed.
At some point when you had an opportunity to gather yourself, were you able to learn what injuries you had suffered?
Yes.
What were those, Mariah?
I had a punctured lung, broken ribs, a broken shoulder blade, a hematoma on my pelvic. My chin was busted open. My lip was busted open. I had mouth injuries resulting in losing a tooth and nerve damage throughout my face because of my teeth.
Do you know, by the time you were able to wake up and comprehend all this, how long you had been in the hospital under sedation?
No, just of what my family told me.
It was days, though?
I didn't wake up till the next day after the accident. And I got released from the hospital 4 days after the accident.
When you went home, were you able to walk and move freely?
No.
What kind of impediments did you have when you went home?
I had to use a walker if I did get up. It was very hard to move around. I couldn't get into a vehicle for probably a month. And if I did, it was hard. It hurt severely. I couldn't sit straight up. I couldn't lay down, flat down. And it was just rough. I just sat there basically until I healed, until I made progress to move around. And I had physical therapy come to my home to work with me. And then that was helping. And then they sent me to outpatient therapy, and that it helped extremely.
And how long did that all take?
A couple months.
Okay. You said that you learned that your son Jaden had been life-flighted to a different hospital.
Yes.
How long was Jaden in the hospital?
2 weeks.
Okay. When he came home, he eventually came home to your house?
Yes.
Were you able to care for him?
No.
At the time, how old was Jaden?
He was 11.
Okay. He's 12 now?
Yes.
Did Jaden receive any home care? I know you mentioned physical therapy for yourself.
Yes, he had physical therapy, occupational therapy, and then a regular nurse coming to the home.
Okay. Do you know what injuries he sustained?
Yes.
What happened to Jaden?
He had multiple broken bones that consisted of his wrist, his fingers. He had a broken pelvis, his legs. He had a big gash in the back of his head. He also had a punctured lung, broken ribs, and a concussion.
Did he have to have surgery?
Yes.
Do you know what part of his body he had to have surgery on?
His femur, his legs.
Okay. How long, well, first I'll ask this way. Jaden's not going to come testify today.
No.
Is Jaden able to walk and get around today?
Yes.
How long did it take for him to be able to do that?
Many months. I can't even give an exact time frame.
Okay. Mariah, you were able to bring a photo of Zane and a photo of Alana for the jury to see today. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Mariah, are those your children?
Yes.
Okay. No further questions, Judge.
Cross.
One moment. I'm very sorry. I'm sorry for your loss. I lost my son in September. He died peacefully at home. He was older. And every time I work on your case, I think you go. And I think of your children. And you have my deepest sympathy. And I'm human. I might be a defense attorney, but I'm human. And you seem like a much stronger person than me.
It's hard.
My prayers are with you and your family. I wish you the best. People keep telling me God has a plan. Yes, that's what we got to do. So I just wanted to come out of you for a minute and tell you true heartfelt that I feel very bad for you and your family. It's a club you don't want to belong to. And I don't have any questions for you. You've gone through enough in life. But
Judge, I appreciate
I'm done. I'm done.
Oh, okay, so that is a tricky moment. Really tricky, because of course, person to person, our hearts go out for this attorney who's lost his son. And surely as a parent who's had to bury a child, he's identifying with this witness who's had to bury two children. But there are rules. There are rules about what attorneys can say and bring into a case, and he's interjected a personal story. This is against the rules, but he's doing it in front of the jury, and the prosecutor can't look insensitive to stand up and cut him off. So what do you do in that instance? Let's talk about it. Let's bring in someone who's been a prosecutor and is a criminal defense attorney now, Matt Timpanik. All right, that moment, Matt, how would you have handled it if you were the prosecutor sitting there watching and listening to that?
I think the prosecution very clearly, when you end the testimony, like, are these your kids? You want that to be the last image the jury sees of this testimony right before cross. Usually cross-examination is where the defense attorney attempts to kind of poke holes or bring less sympathy to the victim. You can't do that with a picture of her deceased kids on there. However, the defense attorney, I think it was kind of a mistake by the prosecution, not thinking that this defense attorney, who the prosecutor would know has lost their kid, would begin asking these questions, just show sympathy. In a cross-examination, you ask questions. He's not. He's just basically having a back and forth conversation. So the prosecution is then put in a position. He objects, he looks insensitive and makes it look like, wow, you don't really have a soul and you have no compassion. But at the same time, it's like you're not allowed to just basically have a back and forth. You're supposed to ask questions of the defendant. So I definitely think that the prosecution thought they were laying a trap, when in reality, they were the ones that looked like idiots because they allowed the defense attorney to show sympathy and understand that he is feeling the same pain. He knows that same pain. So when he asks other victims and witnesses questions, the jury knows that he knows what they are feeling. And he knows that he's doing his job to defend his client in spite of everything. So he got himself points with the jury. And the prosecution is just going to probably try to strike the testimony, which the judge will probably strike the cross. But it's not going to change the fact that the jury heard what they needed to hear.
Right, right. They did it. You can't unring the bell. It's like they did object, but it was kind of late. It was after he said, I don't have any questions for you, ma'am. I just wanted to say what I had to say. And it was kind of like, well, it's out. Oh, that's tricky. So tricky.